Hello everyone, welcome to another important video, and this video is very important for understanding the fundamentals basic concept of clinical research. So when it comes to clinical research, you would have heard the term side effects, but the technical term for the side effects related to a drug is the adverse event or the adverse drug reaction. And it is very important for you to understand what exactly are adverse event, what is adverse drug reaction, and how that is linked to the causality in clinical research. Without further ado, let's understand. Now, first and foremost, let us understand the definition of adverse event. So, adverse event is any untoward medical occurrence in a patient or a clinical trial subject after administering the medical product which does not necessarily have a causal relationship with the treatment. Okay, so any kind of event that does not have a relation, okay, it does not have a causal effect relation, but it is a medically significant event. Okay, and that event is called as adverse event. So, if you see any kind of medical occurrence or any kind of reactions or any kind of ailment in a subject, and you do not know whether it is related or caused by a study treatment, you would term initially as adverse event. Okay, so it is very important for you to understand the definition of adverse event. Now the next thing is understanding what is adverse drug reaction. Now, an adverse drug reaction is a response to a drug which is noxious and unintended and occurs at normal doses, which has suspected or proven causal association with the drug. Okay, so when it comes to adverse event, we did not know whether it was related, but when it comes to adverse drug reaction, we suspect or we have a proven causal relation association. Okay, so in adverse event, we did not know the causality. In adverse drug reaction, we suspect or we have a proven cause and effect relationship to the drug. Okay, so that is the key fundamental difference between adverse event and adverse drug reaction. And it is very important for you to understand that all adverse event are judged either by the reporting by the investigator or the sponsor and having a reasonable causal relationship to the medical product to qualify as an adverse drug reaction. Okay, so when it comes to determining that this particular medication has this particular adverse drug reaction, then you have to prove that it has cause and effect relationship to it. Okay, so whatever effect that a drug has is initially an adverse event, but when you add causality to it, it becomes adverse drug reaction. Now let us understand what could be the example of adverse event. So adverse event can include any kind of responses such as any unfavorable or unintended sign or symptoms or disease. Okay, so which we do not expect. So that is an adverse event. If we have any worsening of pre-existing illness, if the subject was having headache and if it intensifies, then again that could be termed as adverse event. If we have any clinically relevant change in the lab values, okay, if you see change in the his lab values in the medical reports, that can also be an adverse event. Or if you suspect a drug reaction, then that suspicion can also be added to the adverse event. If there is any study procedure related to the injury, if you are giving an insulin injection and if you cause redness or swelling at the skin area where the injection was given, even that is an adverse event. And any accidental injury caused to the subject during the clinical trial, that is also an adverse event. Whether or not it is related to the drug, that is determined by causality, but initially it is an adverse event. And it is very important for you to understand that all kinds of A reported, okay, all kind of A should be reported in the clinical trial, should be captured in the source, irrespective of its relation to the study drug or not, and whether it is significant or not, because you do not know the causal relationship yet. Okay, it is possible that in future you can determine the causality if we have collective cases of a particular adverse event after taking a particular medication. But it is very important at the fundamental level that you report all kind of adverse event. And being a clinical research professional or pharmacy professional, it is very important for us to ensure that we report all this adverse event, and we are very careful about the AE reporting. So whenever we have to report a particular AE, we would require certain details. And that details can be, first we determine the term of adverse event, when the term started, that is onset date, what was the severity, whether it was related to a drug or not, what was the outcome, whether it is resolved or ongoing, what was the date of recovery if the subject has recovered, what was the action taken, did we give any kind of medication to resolve that adverse event, and whether that adverse event lead to discontinuation of the study participant, and whether that adverse event can be classified as serious, because if it is a serious adverse event, then that is an SAE. Okay, that is the term which is serious adverse event, and that has a medically significant impact. Okay, so all these kind of details are very important for you to note whenever you document a particular AE. Now, once we have the AE documented, it is very important for you to grade that AE. And as per CTCAE criteria version 5.0, that is common terminology criteria for adverse event reporting, we grade adverse event from grade 1 to grade 5, where grade 1 is mild. When it comes to mild, we have asymptomatic or mild symptoms, okay, which are interventional and not indicated. When it comes to grade 2, we have moderate symptoms, which are minimal, non-invasive. Grade 3 is severe, which has severe medically significant event and which can be potentially life threatening. Grade 4 is life threatening event which have a significant consequences and which require urgent intervention. And grade 5 is death, which is the most dreaded kind of CTCAE criteria. Okay, so whenever you report an adverse event, it is very important for you to understand what grade that adverse event is, and that is to be determined whether by a medically qualified professional. Okay, so by using CTCAE criteria version 5.0, you determine the severity grading of each and every adverse event. Now, when it comes to AE, it is also very important for you to report the outcome of the AE, whether the subject has recovered, whether he is recovering or recovered with a sequelae or a treatment, and whether that is recovering or resolving. Okay, so all these three criteria that I have mentioned, so that is a recovered category. But if the adverse event, the subject has not recovered, whether the adverse event is fatal, whether that is an SA, or you have another criteria which is unknown, where you do not know whether the adverse event is ongoing, stopped, recovered, not recovered, fatal, non-fatal. So there are six significant categories of adverse event outcome reporting, and that also needs to be documented when it comes to AE reporting. Now, finally, whether it is an AE or adverse drug reaction, it is very important for you to assess the causality, whether it is related to the study drug. So, causality assessment can be done by two methods. Okay, and in this thing, we will see what are the types of causality and what it means. So, if in terms of causality assessment, if the adverse event is unrelated, we determine whether it is not related to the drug or unlikely related to the drug. When it comes to not related, we see that the AE definitely is caused by the subject clinical state or condition, and when we say it is unlikely related, then that particular AE or study drug did not have a temporal association with that AE. Okay, so we have to prove based on the causality assessment whether it is related or not related. If we say the A is related, then we have to determine whether it is possibly related or definitely related. When it comes to possibility related, then that adverse event needs to have a reasonable temporal association with the study drug, and that could have been due to the subject's clinical condition or state. When we say it is definitely related in terms of causality, then that A needs to have a significant reasonable temporal association with the study drug, which abates after the discontinuation of study drug and which initiate whenever the study drug is again reintroduced. Okay, so when you say that this particular drug is definitely causing a reaction, then that reaction should stop after withdrawing the drug, and that reaction should again start when introducing a drug. So that is the causality assessment. So whenever you determine causality, it has to be supported by the subject's clinical state, by the intervention, by the continuation and discontinuation of that particular drug. So that is causality assessment. So thank you for watching this video till the end. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that we can bring such amazing videos to you and have a significant impact in terms of your clinical research knowledge.